Welcome to the first episode of Patrick Draws. My name is Patrick, and I'm going to show you how to draw using basic shapes. With the help of my sister Amy, we're going to try and make episodes a few times a week. Today's image was chosen by my nephew Caden. He chose Mew from Pokemon. So let's get started. So I've already brought in an image I found on the internet of the Pokemon character Mew. And when I'm looking at this, the first things that I want to look for are the basic shapes that I see. So I'm just going to grab a red color from my brush here, and I'm just going to look for basic shapes that I see. And the first thing that I see is I see a perfect circle here for the stomach area. And I also see some circles right in here for the feet. And then if I look at the head, what I see is not a circle, but I see almost like a football shape. So if I draw like this, it's basically like a football. And I'm going to undo that real quick. So from this shape, then I also might see a half of a circle right here. And another circle that's kind of coming out here. Then the next thing I see are a couple of triangles. And the arms to me are just a couple of rectangles here. And let's take a look here. The tail is basically the letter S. And a big swooping line that goes like that. And then the tail tip is kind of like an oval. So let's just do that. And then we need to make sure that we do something for the eyes here. So I'm almost seeing triangles here for the eyes. So let's just put in a couple of triangles. And now if I go into my layers here, and I turn down the original drawing, it's really almost starting to look like the character. Now, obviously, we really haven't done much with the body or the legs, so let's go ahead and add those in. And so I'm just going to make a little connector line from here, from the base of the arm to the body here. Another one like that. And then for the legs, now I see basically an oval shape here. And then there's another little arc coming out this way, which might be a half of a circle here. And then I'm really just going to connect some lines. And they've got a slight arc to them, but I can almost draw them straight. And a couple of detail lines for the feet here. And then I just want to give my eyes a little bit of detail. Now let's see what that looks like if we turn the layer off. I mean, really, that's starting to come together. And all I really did was trace that drawing with some basic shapes. So that's kind of how I deconstruct an image when I'm looking at it. So let's go ahead and draw my own next to this. So I'm going to turn that down. I'm going to create a new layer. Okay, I'm going to work off of that layer. Let's pull him up. I still want to kind of see my basic shapes here when I go to do my own drawing. The first thing I always like to start with is usually the head. So let's go ahead and just put in a little circle oval shape here for the size, so I can get an idea of the size and the shape of the head. And so you can see I'm trying to keep it level with what they've drawn here. So then I'll do the circle here for the waist. And notice that that circle is off on an angle here, not perfectly underneath it. So if I were to draw that right here, that's too centered. But he's got some action going, and so that's why we need to make sure that that circle is more to the right. And you can see that that circle is smaller than the circle we've done for the head. So the head is actually the biggest piece of this character, biggest part of this character. From this point, basically, I might want to kind of rough in where the feet are going to be, and I notice that this foot is higher up than this foot. So I'm going to kind of put a little line here and maybe one here, and those are kind of guiding me of where the foot is going to end. And remember, I had done some circles for the feet, so I'm going to go ahead and do those. And you can go ahead and add this little bump here. I'm just going to make a little arc there, and then I'm going to add in this leg here with its own oval, but I need to angle that more like this. So something like that. And then let's go ahead and let's connect these lines. So I see a line that connects from here to here, and it's not perfectly straight. It's got a little bit of an arc to it. And same thing with that one, a little bit of an arc. And then the same thing here, let's connect that. And then you can see that he's almost got like a heel coming out right here. So let's kind of give that a little bit of an arc there, a little circle there, and then I'm going to just connect that. Now let's go ahead and connect the body to the head. So I'm just going to make a couple of arced lines, one going that way and one kind of going that way. And let's go ahead and add in the arms. Now if you notice the way that these arms are, it's almost like one big arc. They're two separate, I had drawn them as two separate rectangles, which is correct, but there's an arc going from arm to arm. So I'm going to try and draw that arc first, because that arc is going to give us a little bit of a tilt to the shoulders. And that's also another thing that helps us show some action. And let's go ahead and draw our rectangles. Okay. Let's go ahead and look at the head. So I'm going to put that football back in. We've kind of already got it here. Okay, and then I'm going to make the top of this circle a little more in depth. And then we've got another circle kind of here for the bottom part of the nose. So let's just do something like that. Okay, and it's getting a little messy, but we're going to do a cleanup drawing on top of this. So let's go ahead and put some triangles in here for the ears. Something like that. And when I'm doing this, I'm trying to keep the sizes the same. So you can see I've just got some triangles there. Now the eyes, here's a trick I like to do with the eyes. You draw basically a center line that shows you where the eyes are going to fall. And then another line going this way shows you the center of the face. And you'll kind of get used to this after doing it a lot of times. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to my own drawing here. And now I have a better idea of where to place those eyes. Because this eye is on that side of this line, and this side is even further to the right than the other eye is. So I can just throw some triangles in here for placement and size. And then this one is more something like that. And you can say, well, his eyes aren't triangles. Well, they are if you had to pick a shape. They're not really a square and they're not really a circle. So that's why I'm just drawing straight triangles for now. And then what I'm going to do is just kind of go over and curve out my edges here. Just add some curves to them. And then this kind of goes outwards a little bit. And then the eye kind of comes in there, and then we've got a little highlight there, which I might use my eraser actually, just to show where the highlight's going to be. And then this eye's got a little arc like that, highlight there. Let's go ahead and round the top of that triangle, round the corner of that triangle, and round that corner. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and round a little bit the ears here, because they're a little too straight. All right. Now, I want to do the tail. So the tail comes out of this leg, like right in the center of this leg here. So right about there, we want the tail to come out. So the tail doesn't have to be perfect because it's really just a big swooping S. So what we're going to do is just do our own swoop. And you can see my swoop maybe is a little bit bigger here than theirs. It doesn't really matter. The trick is really going to be when you make your two lines to kind of track this swoop. That's kind of hard to do, to keep those even. But with practice, you'll get better at it. And then we've got to remember we had a oval up here for the tail, and so we're just going to connect that oval to our swooping S. And you can see my drawing at the tail of at this stage is still pretty rough. It's really rough. But that's how you build up your drawing. And then we've got a couple of little fingers here, so I'm going to do 3 little bump triangles. And a couple of lines here for the toes. And then that should get me pretty close. So now what I want to do is I want to create a new layer on top of what I've just done. And I'm going to pull the opacity down on my last layer here. And now I'm going to change my color to black. And I'm going to trace the most important lines on this drawing. And you can kind of start anywhere. I always like to start at the head here. So I'm just going to start tracing the lines that are, you might call them the outer edge of the drawing. And see how I'm not connecting my lines from here to here? I'm just trying to draw the outer edges. But I'm using my red line underneath as a guide so I can get one nice clean drawing line on top. Okay. And like that. And the good thing about working digitally is I can do undo if I don't like a line and just redraw it. Now if you're drawing with paper, this stage is a little bit harder because you basically would need to take another piece of paper on top of your drawing and trace it. And if you have a light box, I used to do a lot of drawings with the light box, especially in animation. Put the highlight there. Let's add a little darkness for the pupil. And then we'll do this eye. And the highlight. Add a pupil. Okay. And then let's come down here to the arm and let's just trace our outer lines like we've done. And you can see this line doesn't come all the way down. There's a break. So I'm going to make sure I get that break there. Something like that. And we will do this. So at this point, I'm really just tracing the outer line of, I don't want to trace these lines anymore. I just want the outer lines. And if you don't like a line, you can just undo it if you've got a tablet like me. Or if you've got a pencil and an eraser, you can erase it. And so in this case, the artist has only drawn this portion of it. So once you get into this, you're not drawing every single line of the understructure, of the shapes underneath. And then this line kind of comes in a little bit, and that kind of gives us our armpit area. So let's go ahead and try and connect the tail, and this line is always a little tricky, so I'm just going to wing it and try and do it more or less quickly here. The quicker you can draw that, the smoother the line will be. And then something like that. Okay. Now that shape's a little off from what they've done, but maybe I'll do like that, and then come back with my eraser and clean that up a little bit. Okay, now I think it's time for some details. So I missed the toes over here, so I'm gonna put some toes in. And I see there's a couple of lines here which are almost like the eyebrows. So I'm gonna add those in. And I think we're looking pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring up my layers again, and I'm gonna pull everything back except for my drawing in the original. And there you go. So there's my version of the Mew Pokemon character. And I'm going to go ahead and paint this in really quickly. I'm going to grab my paint bucket tool and just color them in real quick. Now, go ahead and if you notice, I tried to keep my lines so that they connected so that when I came to the stage of painting him in, it went pretty quickly. But painting and coloring is kind of a different topic than drawing. I just want to show you how I do a drawing. So that's pretty much it, and that's how I draw Mew from Pokemon. If you have an image you'd like me to draw, just leave your suggestions in the comments below. Thanks for watching the first episode of Patrick Draws. I hope to see you next time.